This is the halftime show with Umar and Guri on Pulse 95.
Halftime show, Pulse 95 Radio, episode 900, with the man, the myth, the legend, Stephan Muller. Welcome to the show, man.
I'm so happy to be here. I can't believe it's been 900 episodes. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. It's mad, huh?
And it's an honor that I'm here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, man, the pleasure's all mine. We were talking about this off air, and we were saying that we normally have probably the best conversations off air. I happened to do one of them on your podcast, which was really good, by the way. Check out his podcast, by the way. And you've come on my show twice, and this is a hat trick.
Yeah, and the conversations we have in person are like amazing in an unplanned way.
Very uncommon.
Very uncommon, very well said.
I'm throwing everything. My mom's saying, Akid, I'm listening to your 900th episode, and so thanks, Mom, for listening. And Stephan, back to you. Last time we spoke, you ran 7 Emirates in 7 days. You were getting ready for that.
That's right. We were running 7 ultra marathons, 50 kilometers a day for 7 days in the 7 Emirates.
Yes, and I actually went down when you came to Sharjah, and I saw you guys in action. And it was, honestly, it was very, very inspiring. Like, for those people that didn't get a chance to see it or see the way you guys documented it, it was amazing. But now, when you do something like that, you got something else you're doing. What are you doing? Tell the audience what you're doing next.
I always try to up the game, right? So last February, we did 350K in 7 days. Now what we're planning to do is in February, we're traveling to New Zealand, very long flight, and I'm going to be running 160K in one go. And the beautiful thing is this time around, it's a very large community that's traveling with us. It's about 35 people that are going to run different distances, 50K, 100K, 160K.
Yeah.
And so it's definitely way outside of my comfort zone as of right now, but like we've got a bit of time to train. So really excited about it.
And how did that come about?
So 2 of my co-founders of the Uncommon Club, which is a running community in Dubai, are from New Zealand.
Yeah.
And, you know, we've always wanted to run a big ultra marathon together. So we said, you know, why don't we just go see what's in New Zealand? We found this race. We put it out to the community saying, like, this is what we're going to do. And we thought maybe 3-4 people would join us. And then all of a sudden we had 35 people who were like, we'll sign up for one of these distances. So I think we all registered probably 2 months ago, and we started training a month ago. Yeah.
I've seen you guys in action. Shout out to Jaden and Emil as well for that. It's one of those things that I think from the outside, people aspire to touch the surface but never get across the line. How do you prepare yourself, A, to approach the line, and B, to cross the line?
That's a very good question. I think it can be very daunting, because it seems like such an untouchable distance. The first thing is giving yourself time to prepare. Like usually when you train for a 5K or a 10K, like you can do it within 8 to 12 weeks, something along those lines. Now when we're saying we're training for, 9 months, 36 weeks, it becomes a lot more approachable and digestible. Like you have these little milestones throughout that time that you're planning to hit. Obviously we have phenomenal coaches that have done this before and like know how to get you through it. So I would say those 2 things, having really good guidance and just like accepting that you have a lot of time to train for this, and also knowing that like the person that's going to cross that finish line in February is not the same person that's here today, right? Like you have to evolve as a person, you have to put a lot of work. So I think also being patient with yourself.
I like that. And when you're going on these runs, because they're longer than the average run, you start to hear voices and you start to listen to different types of voices. And you're smiling when I say that, because this is how our conversations go, by the way. You might want to have a seat for the next 45 minutes because this is going to be good. How do you embrace, disconnect, and silence the voices?
So everything is positive at this point. The first thing I always tell myself is there's no outs, meaning there's no excuses. So whatever I'm feeling, the only way I'll stop is if I break something or if I snap something. If it's not one of those 2 things, then we're not stopping.
Mm.
So this immediately cancels out whatever doubt might arise in your mind. I think the other thing is just constant, like, positive self-talk, right? Like, just, I got this, give it everything, you got this. And then the last thing I tell myself a lot is, like, I do it for people, right? So, like, my family would be my mind, my loved ones, my friends. I'll have this thing when things get really tough. Every mile or every kilometer, I'll think of someone that's dear to me, and I'll just envision them. And all of a sudden, like, things just become a lot easier. But ultimately, it's just positive self-talk.
Okay, does that require practice in itself?
Totally.
How do you practice positive self-talk?
I think by going through negative self-talk, like, I've gone through that, where I've said, oh, you're not going to finish this. This is too hard. This is too this. This is too that.
Right.
And just by learning, like, how to kind of, like, transition that into positivity, it takes a bit of time. It takes a bit of practice. And again, I go back to patience. I think you have to be very self-forgiving.
Yeah.
You have to be patient with yourself. Not everything's going to be easy, and not everything's going to be smooth.
Yes.
You're going to hit rocky in life or in a run.
Correct.
There's going to be rocky parts in life. But, like, what choice do you have but to move forward? None. Right?
I like that. I like that. It's got me thinking. I know I'm very adamant that I can spend, like, the next 45 minutes talking into the first segment. But what I'm going to do, for you guys have a lot of questions about something at the moment now that is, I don't even want to say trending because it's here to stay, Whoop. And if you do have that, shoot me a message on 4215 or slide into my DMs at Omaldi on Instagram, because I have the director of the GCC Whoop here, Stephan, who's going to be able to answer your questions. And we're going to be talking about things that are very, very commonly mentioned when it comes down to the Whoop. So stay tuned for more on the only place to be at 3, the halftime show on Pulse 95 Radio. Let's play some Afrobeat and T-Pain Kondo.
This is the halftime show with Omar Adori on Pulse 95.
Halftime show, Pulse 95 Radio. Now you can hear me, right?
Yeah. I was waiting for you to do that.
Stephan Muller is in the building. Yeah, you see? This is what I was doing before. He couldn't hear me. I love that. Okay, right. Let's talk about what's trending at the moment. I don't want to call it trending at the moment because it's been around for a while, but everyone is talking about the Whoop, and who better to ask than the director himself of the GCC, Stephan, about that. Now, devices, apps, trackers, it's kind of the thing. I think it's a great thing because it brings awareness. I told you what happened with my mum as well regarding that, which really brought things to make it more fun for any age group. So with the Whoop, what's the most common things you hear? And especially now with what's come out, how is that evolving?
Yeah, I think so. A few weeks ago, we came out with the Whoop 5.0 and the Whoop MG. MG stands for medical grade.
Right.
So there's been some really cool new features and new developments, and we're always working on improving and, like, being as innovative as possible. But, like, we've included blood pressure monitoring now. We've included a physiological age, basically, like, you understanding what age you truly are versus what age is on your passport. And then we have a heart screener now on here as well. And so just having these three features, firstly opens up a whole different market for us, right? Like, because now people like your mom would be a lot more interested in this because there's medical tracking in there.
She's listening as well.
Yeah, there we go. But I think secondly, what's been really fun to see is, like, everyone sharing their Whoop age. You know, it's become this thing, like, it's like this gamified thing because it updates every week.
Right.
And there's obviously ways that you can improve it, and people want to get younger, and they want to see that, they want to see that number decrease. So it's been really cool to see a lot of people sharing this, and obviously there's a lot more to come in the future. The company is already 12 plus years old.
Yes.
And this market or the GCC for us has just been phenomenal. And seeing how into Whoop people are here has been really cool to see.
Yeah, so walk me through it. There's the 4.0, then there's the Life, and there's the MG. Is that how it is, or how is it exactly?
Well, no. So the 4.0 is the older.
Yes.
Is the older model.
Right.
And then you've got the newer models that have come out.
Okay.
But now you have these different tiers of membership. So you would have Life and MG.
Okay.
As
And then with that, they offer different things in terms of what they read and what they give you.
Correct.
Yes. Okay.
Correct.
Cool. And then the aging one was pretty interesting because a lot of people will get their age compared to what it is on their passport, and then they will obviously compete with themselves to try and bring that down. With that, are there any hacks to that? From your personal experience with dealing with so many people that have spoken to you about it, I'm sure they've compared ages and all that kind of stuff. Are there things that people can look out for in how to improve that?
I think there's the common sense things, right? So like the foundations of living a healthy life, which would be eating well, staying hydrated, especially now in Dubai summer, sleeping well, and decreasing your stress levels.
Right.
But there's also like little more nuanced things like sleep consistency is extremely important for your biological age. So people think just because I'm sleeping long is a good thing. But if you're not sleeping consistently, so meaning going to sleep at the same time and waking up at the same time, like that's a really interesting one that you'll definitely see a difference very, very quickly in your biological age.
Sleep, again, is probably one of the most underrated tools that a lot of people are starting now to get the awareness on. How important is sleep hygiene and sleep environment and sleep preparation to achieving those goals that we then view on our trackers?
I'm sure that you've seen a difference when you start implementing like little things here and there, right? So sleep hygiene could be things like, what temperature is your room? Is it like, do you have like blackout blinds? And do you have the right pillow? Do you have the right mattress? Like, is it too hot, too cold? Like, these are like the smallest things that actually make a really, really big difference. And you've probably seen it because you've been on Whoop for some time, where you see the difference in like the deep sleep that you get and the REM sleep that you get. So deep sleep and REM sleep, or restorative sleep is what we call it. And that's kind of the most important part of sleep, right? Do you have any experience with like how sleep hygiene has impacted you?
I told you, he's good, man.
Flip it on you.
It has. I think, Maria makes fun of me all the time. When I started wearing the blue light glasses, the blocking glasses for light, that was one thing. When I started trying to sleep at the same time, the difference and the challenge that I had, now that the season's over, it's much easier. But the challenge that I have is football is normally on after 11 p.m. And if I started sleeping at specific times and waking up at certain times, my consistency, my circadian rhythm, and my flow throughout the week was much better. When the football's on, especially Champions League or midweek games, and we're watching our team draw.
You go to sleep at 1 a.m.
Yes, frustrated.
Yeah.
When that was happening, then it was... It was harder for me to maintain, and I knew that. Even despite if I had all the time in the world to wake up, which we don't normally do, but let's say if I could have an hour or 2 hours extra to sleep, I wouldn't wake up at that time. I would wake up when my body wants me to wake up. And those are all things that I kind of picked up from the sleeping patterns, from the timing of sleep, the temperature of the room. If I've watched anything on TV prior to that, water, not consuming that an hour before I go to bed, because then I would wake up to go to the bathroom. All these things would disrupt my sleep flow.
Yeah.
And if I didn't experience that, I probably wouldn't know how to keep it consistent, because they all interrupted what I was trying to get, which was a nice rhythm of sleep.
Yeah, and it also goes back to other things like not eating too close to bedtime, right? Like,
yeah.
And even in the morning, like ensuring you limit your caffeine intake, ensuring you get sunlight exposure. Like, there's so many little hacks that you can implement, but I think just focusing on the foundations as like a start, which is again focusing on your nutrition, your hydration, movement throughout the day, and then start implementing the little hacks like blue light blockers, red light therapy, ice baths and saunas, which we've spoken about. Yes, they're fantastic for sleep.
Yeah.
But those are the little percentages that you need. I think the foundations of sleep are the ones that you've mentioned.
Yeah, brilliant. And do you ever, when it comes down to the Whoop, feel a certain way and then you then view the Whoop and it sees your strain is crazy, or do you do the opposite? Do you end up staying away from the Whoop until you feel a certain way and then you check it?
So we've spoken about this before. I think I tend to not check it the second I wake up.
Okay.
I tend to check it after my workout.
Right.
So I work out first thing in the morning.
Yes.
And I have a very strict sort of morning routine, and I'll get into my workout, and then after that.
What's the morning routine?
So I'll wake up. I'll do.
What time?
I'll wake up at 6:15.
Okay.
6 or 6:15. Typically 6:15. I'll do mobility. I do a quick meditation. I'll hydrate with electrolytes. I'll take a cold shower. I get changed, and then I'll have an espresso, double espresso sometimes, and then I'll head to the gym. I'll get my workout done. I'll get in the sauna, sometimes the ice bath, and then I'll check my Whoop after that. And the reason I do that is, so firstly, it doesn't determine my mood in any shape or form going into the workout, unless it's a big workout. Like if I'm running for 2-3 hours, or if I'm in the gym for 2-3 hours and I'm really pushing myself, I check my recovery score just to make sure that I'm not, in the red and at risk of potentially getting injured or sick, or understanding how hard I need to push myself on that given day.
Yeah, see, that's the right balance. Right, okay, let's take a quick break. We'll be back with more. I'm going to play you some Central C Core Sprinter.
This is the Halftime Show with Omar Adori on Pulse 95.
Sure is that time, the Halftime Show, Pulse 95 Radio. The award-winning Halftime Show is where it is because of the people we bring on the show. It has been 900 episodes. It's been an absolute honor to be able to be your host on the Halftime Show on Pulse 95 Radio. And who would have thought we would reach this huge milestone, which is a small win for many, but for me it's a big deal because I've learned so much from the people on the show, and Stephan is no different, having had the hat trick on the 900th episode. It's great to have him on the show here today. If you are listening, you can catch his episode on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, or head over to our YouTube channel, and his episode should be live next week. So yes, if you're just tuning in now and you missed half an hour of some great content, it'll be up on YouTube next week. Now, this is not strange to you because you've been on this side and you've been the host and you've interviewed some fantastic people. What was your experience like as a host?
It's funny because it was weird for me to now be in this chair for a very long time, because the way I started with this world was as a host. It wasn't as a guest, and I felt that it came quite natural to me, mainly because I was just really curious about the people that I brought on.
Yeah.
And we spoke about this offline. Being able to kind of navigate this conversation and asking the questions that you really want to ask, and that you really want to know on behalf of the people listening, which is kind of what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
Is it's just so interesting. It felt like a free education, which was really fun, which is why I did it for such a long time, and not as long as 900 episodes, but I've definitely did it for some time, and I definitely, it's definitely something I want to do very soon again.
Could we see a new wave with a show on you being the host on it? Because I know you did Forever Student, and I was super grateful you had me on that, by the way, as a guest. It was a great chat. I was telling you offline, and I'll say it to the listeners as well. The chat that I had with Stephan on his podcast, I re-listened to on my way to Thailand because I thought it was a very fluent, organic conversation that we both spoke, and it went from football to mental health to phone a friend. We had some really good things. Could we see you maybe re-entering the podcast world?
So firstly, I think that was one of my favorite episodes I did, and that's not just because you're a friend, and I think that the substance that people got from that episode, we got a lot of positive feedback on that. And I definitely like to come back. It'll definitely be something more focused on high performance, more focused on mental health. Now, whether that's a new concept or going back to something that I've done already is yet to be decided. But I miss it, especially sitting here right now. I'm like, oh, this feels right.
Yeah.
100%.
How close is high performance and mental health to you as a person before you become the host?
What do you mean by that?
As in, how close is it to your beliefs, the importance of it being out there, the awareness on raising it as a person before you actually being a host and then being able to share that knowledge with other people?
Right. I think it's two things that I am constantly battling with a little bit, right? I'm constantly trying to be a high performer, both in work and as an athlete.
Yeah.
And then the mental health piece comes in because it's whenever you raise the bar in anything in life, mental health often takes a bit of a beating. And understanding how to take care of your mental health, especially in these days as a man, is firstly so important. And I think understanding how to do that better with experts is going to be extremely important.
Yeah. A standout for you that you've spoken to, or maybe a couple, who comes to mind?
When it comes to
The high performance or the mental health?
I spoke to Ant Middleton.
Okay.
That was a really interesting chat that I had. I spoke to Mo Gaudat,
Yeah.
who speaks a lot about happiness and speaks about stress. And then recently I had kind of the honor to speak to Jimmy Butler, who's an NBA player, and kind of understanding how these guys function in such high pressure environments, which I'm not used to, right? Like playing in front of thousands of people multiple times a week and putting in a world-class performance and having that pressure on your shoulders to deliver is not something that I've dealt with in the past. So understanding that mindset was also just really, really interesting.
You had me thinking there when you said not performing on front of crowds, but you still are a high performance athlete. Do you have to be a performer to be a high performance athlete?
Do you have to be a performer to be a high performance athlete? No, you don't.
Okay.
No, absolutely not. I think now running the 160,
Yeah.
one of the things I do is I announce my goals to the world, right? So whether it's on Instagram or in person or whatever. And so now there's this like accountability to everybody I've told that I need to deliver. So those people are watching me. It's not necessarily, strangers on TV, but it's certainly, there's certainly eyes on that challenge.
And doesn't that put you in the same bracket? See where I'm going with this?
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Because you said that those people perform at a very high level, but the things you're doing are no means light in any sense of the imagination. So I would personally, not as a friend, but as a host, I'd put you up there with those people.
I think it's certainly a level of elite performance.
Yeah.
That very few people in the world do.
Correct.
So if I look at the amount of people that completed 100 miles, it's 0.00001% of the population.
Yeah.
So it's there's definitely a level to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, different worlds.
Yeah. Great way to segment that one. Different worlds. Love that. We're going to play you some Ma Muhim by Maz Maz. This is a great track. You'll like this one, Stephan.
This is the halftime show with Omar Adori on Pulse 95.
It sure is that time. Halftime show, Pulse 95 Radio, episode 900 live with Stephan Muller here on Pulse 95 Radio. Stephan, thanks so much for coming on the show. I have to jump into what we were talking offline because it's just as good as what we were saying online. What did you make of the Israel Adesanya and David Goggins training together? The content was online. What did you make of firstly as an athlete in that field when you saw them two training together?
I loved it. Firstly, I have so much admiration for David Goggins. I think he's in a league of his own in terms of mental toughness, and seeing seeing such a successful athlete in the UFC, not being able to keep up with him is. It was such a strange thing to watch, right?
It was surreal.
Yeah.
Is that, obviously David Goggins is a level of his own, but is that maybe Israel Adesanya, or let's say a mixed martial artist, maybe underestimating that type of training, that type of running, that type of endurance?
It's a whole different world. Like when I tell people that like my long runs are, between 8 to 10 hours of non-stop running, they can't really believe it. And it's hard, like it's tough, and it's just completely different, right?
Yeah.
Like I won't be able to do what he does.
Right. But you were speaking to an athlete recently, a basketball player, and you were talking to him about you running, and he found that astonishing.
Yeah, he found it just very strange to hear that someone would run 100K in one go. There was like this disbelief to it, which was really interesting to me. And because I've repeated the story about the 100K and about 777 so many times, for me it's not that special anymore.
Right.
But for someone who's hearing it for the first time, that someone goes and voluntarily runs for 20 hours, it's Yeah, it's definitely a surprise.
That's a different, and that was Butler. You were
Jimmy
saying.
Butler, yeah.
Jimmy Butler, yeah. And so as a basketballer, when he spoke to you about that, and you told him that, he was quite astonished by it, even though he's also an athlete, he's also someone playing at the highest level, and yet he found that quite astonishing.
He found it quite astonishing, yeah. And again, listen, like, he's one of the best athletes in the NBA,
Yeah.
in the US, right? So it was kind of also strangely a big compliment,
Right.
hearing it from him,
Yeah.
that he was so impressed by it. And it then made me think about, yeah, you know what, it isn't just common to run 100K.
Yeah, absolutely. And another exclusive that was offline when we were talking about swimming.
Oh.
I'm not going to let him leave without this one. He can do many things. This guy's super talented, by the way. Swimming is something I asked you about because when I was studying sports and exercise science at university, swimmers came up in the conversation, in the studies, in the case studies. Michael Phelps obviously came up in there, and how much work it felt to do in the water as opposed to on the ground, which they estimate about 4 times more work. How, as a discipline, how would you see yourself in that? And could we possibly see you
Here we go.
doing an Ironman, for example?
Yeah, I really struggle with swimming. I
Okay.
think cycling and running
Are your thing?
will be okay.
Yeah.
Strength part will be okay. But the discipline of swimming, I really admire people who do all 3 of these disciplines to such a high level.
Mm-hmm.
It's just been so difficult. Like, it's so hard for me to get the breathing right and to get the flow right and all these sort of things. And it's going to take a lot of work. I've always been against me doing an Ironman. Like, I've always stayed away from it.
Why?
But I think I don't know. I think it's just going to take way too much time for me to get into it. But I think you've now planted a seed. And yeah, I'm going to consider it after finishing the 160.
There you go. You heard it here. Listen, we might bring him on for the quadruple. He's done the hat trick. If he does an Ironman, and they can't say no to me on this one. If he does an Ironman, we got to bring him on. I've seen Stephan obviously run. I know he's got a tennis background. I know he's got his own coaches, and he's got like all the disciplines in check. I think that's another challenge that let's support him through New Zealand first, the 160, and then after that we can talk about that. Just take the pressure off a little bit. But I know you're going to smash it anyway. And New Zealand's in February.
New Zealand's in February.
Okay, and how's that going? And what have you been doing to prepare yourself for that?
We've started training for it officially about a month ago.
Okay.
So we have a training program that's prepared by the Uncommon Club, which is our running community.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're running about 4 times a week. We're in the gym 3 times a week. We're doing mobility daily. We're focused heavily on nutrition and recovery. We're doing a bunch of different things around workshops and education now as well for all of the runners, including myself, just to ensure that we stay on top of all the things you need to stay on top of as a runner, because it's not just going out there and running, right? Like, there's so much in terms of, you know, mental frameworks and how to eat properly, drink properly, rest, sleep, as well as then train and mobilize and run. So we've just really kicked off the journey, and it's going to be a really fun rest of the year. A lot of people disagree with me when I say fun. For me, it's a lot of fun. Like, I actually really enjoy the pain, and I enjoy the suffering to an extent.
Yes.
But soon enough, the rest of the 35 people will join me in that mindset as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Shout out to those 35 people. If you're listening now and if you're watching this on YouTube, shout out to the 35 people getting themselves involved in that. Shout out to the Uncommon Club as well, Whoop, and everyone else that's behind this man. He's remarkable, honestly. And the nicest thing about it is that he's a nice human. Like, apart from all the extra, ultra, unbelievable stuff he's doing, is a good human to have around. So you guys are very lucky to have him in your community. So thank you very much for that. And thanks for coming on the show, man.
Honestly, it's an honor to be here, and I'm so impressed by, you know, what you've done. 900 episodes. I don't know anyone personally that's done 900 of anything. So having stayed consistent with it for such a long time, honestly, hats off to you. Well done.
Thank you so much. And guys, that is full time on the Halftime Show. It's 900 episodes. It is, and I'm so grateful for that. Thanks, DJ, for doing that. You guys have been amazing. You've been amazing. I appreciate you guys supporting me throughout this whole thing, and everyone behind the scenes as well, who doesn't always get the credit Thank you very much. You guys know who you are for supporting the Halftime Show, Pulse 95 Radio, and all the incredible guests we have here. Have a fantastic day from us here on Pulse 95 Radio. Stephan, you've been a legend as always. Appreciate you, my man.